Everyone expected Jake Paul to be outmatched, knocked down, and finished quickly, but what actually happened stunned the boxing world. Despite facing a former heavyweight champion, getting knocked down multiple times, and even limping, he kept getting back up, round after round. He didn't win the fight, but he proved something far bigger: courage, resilience, and the kind of heart that even the pros couldn't ignore. You have to see exactly what went down to understand why this performance changed how people see him. After the fight, one thing became clear to almost everyone watching: Jake Paul showed real heart. He kept getting up, even when the fight was clearly stacked against him. Anthony Joshua was simply too big, too strong, and too experienced, but Jake never stopped trying. That's what stood out most. There was a moment when Jake started limping. It looked like that could have been the end. Most fighters would have used that as a reason to quit, to say they were hurt or injured and walk away. But Jake didn't. He stood back up and kept fighting. He didn't get the win, obviously, but he earned respect. Very few people expected him to survive 6 rounds with a former 2-time heavyweight champion. Some even believe Jake won 3 or 4 of those rounds, which says a lot considering the level of opponent he faced. Boxing professionals noticed Jake Paul's performance immediately, and the reaction was far more respectful than many expected. While the result itself was no surprise, the way Jake handled the moment changed the conversation. Fighters, trainers, and analysts all pointed to one thing first: courage. Stepping into the ring with a former heavyweight champion like Anthony Joshua is not a casual decision. It requires belief, preparation, and a willingness to face real danger. Jake showed all 3. Even in defeat, many felt he walked away with something valuable: experience that can't be gained in the gym or through easier matchups. Several pros emphasized that Jake didn't look lost in the ring. He wasn't panicked, reckless, or overwhelmed. Instead, he followed a plan, stayed composed under pressure, and made Joshua work to get him out of there. For a fighter still early in his boxing journey, that mattered. It showed growth. It showed that he's learning how to manage distance, timing, and stress against elite opposition. In the eyes of many professionals, that alone proved he belongs in the boxing ring, not as a novelty, but as a serious participant who is still developing. Teofimo Lopez was one of the first high-profile fighters to speak after the knockout. His message was clear and direct. This fight did not damage Anthony Joshua's legacy in any way. Joshua did what he was supposed to do. He stayed patient, applied pressure, and finished the fight when the opening appeared. From Lopez's perspective, there was no embarrassment, no stain, and no reason to question Joshua's status. If anything, it reinforced why experience and size matter at the highest level. At the same time, Lopez gave Jake credit where it was due. He acknowledged the bravery it took to step up and face someone like Joshua. That kind of challenge isn't taken lightly, and it's not something most fighters or people would willingly accept. But Lopez also offered a firm reality check. If Jake truly wants to measure his skills and continue growing as a boxer, he needs to face opponents closer to his own size and weight. That's where real evaluation happens. Fighting massive heavyweights may draw attention, but it doesn't always allow for fair development or clear assessment. Other professionals echoed that sentiment. They saw this fight as a learning moment rather than a failure. Jake tested himself at the highest end of the spectrum, and while the physical gap was obvious, the mental side was encouraging. He didn't quit. He didn't collapse under pressure. He absorbed punishment and kept trying to execute his strategy. That resilience earned respect across the boxing community. In the end, the consensus among professionals was balanced and fair. Anthony Joshua's reputation remained intact. Jake Paul's credibility, meanwhile, grew in a different way. He didn't win the fight, but he proved he's willing to take risks, learn from losses, and face challenges that most wouldn't dare attempt. For boxing insiders, that matters. It signals that Jake's journey in the sport isn't a joke, it's a work in progress, and one that many will now watch with a more serious eye. There were also discussions about strategy. Some felt Jake didn't have the best game plan against someone like Joshua. Others believed he needed to use his jab more and manage his conditioning better. Still, stepping into the ring with AJ was a massive challenge, and many respected Jake just for taking it. Several fighters said they'd like to see Jake return and fight someone in his weight range next. The idea isn't to rush him into the deep end again, but to find that middle ground: real boxers, ranked fighters, maybe top 15 or top 10 opponents, so fans can better judge his progress. As for Anthony Joshua, many believe this fight helped him rather than hurt him. While some expected him to end it within the first couple of rounds, the longer fight didn't damage his reputation. In fact, it showed patience and control. Some even suggested Joshua held back at times, possibly respecting Jake's power and counterpunching ability. Rolly Romero also weighed in, praising Jake's toughness. He pointed out how Jake got knocked down multiple times but kept getting back up, despite fighting well above his natural weight class. According to Romero, that kind of resilience takes serious mental and physical strength. In the end, the knockout was inevitable, but the performance before it changed how many people see Jake Paul. He didn't win the fight, but he proved he wasn't there as a joke. He showed courage, durability, and the willingness to face real danger against one of boxing's most established heavyweights. Jake Paul surprised a lot of people by landing clean shots on Anthony Joshua. It wasn't just luck, he found moments and made them count. Even more impressive was how many times he got back up, 3, maybe 4 knockdowns, and he still kept fighting. And remember, this wasn't even his natural weight class. That alone caught many observers off guard. When it came to Joshua's performance, reactions were mixed. Some fans felt AJ should have thrown his right hand more often and finished the fight earlier. Others questioned whether he held back because Jake kept landing overhand shots on top of his head. There was a sense that Joshua was being cautious, possibly worried about getting caught by an unexpected counter. Rolly Romero called it a good fight overall. He pointed out that Jake's movement and timing forced Joshua to think instead of rushing in. According to Romero, that's not easy even for a top heavyweight. When a smaller fighter keeps moving and refuses to stand still, it changes the rhythm of the fight. Not everyone agreed, though. Aljamain Sterling gave a harsh reaction online, calling the fight a clown show and showing little respect for the matchup. Vidal Riley, a professional boxer, was also critical of Joshua. He believed AJ should have ended the fight much earlier and said there was no real excuse for the delay. In Riley's view, elite boxers are expected to adjust no matter how unusual their opponent's style is. Riley did make one important point, though: movement is a real boxing tactic. You can't dismiss it as running. Cutting the ring, attacking the body, and forcing exchanges are skills top fighters are supposed to have. He argued that if Joshua had focused more on body shots, controlled the space better, and positioned himself smarter, the fight could have ended in rounds 3 or 4 still. Context matters. Joshua hadn't fought in over a year, and Jake clearly came in with a survival-first game plan: move, frustrate, and avoid direct exchanges. In a slightly smaller ring, chasing a mobile opponent takes time. It's not flashy, but it's realistic. Once Joshua finally landed clean, the difference in power showed immediately. He broke Jake's jaw, and the fight ended right there. That moment reminded everyone why AJ is a former heavyweight champion. Joseph Parker offered one of the most balanced takes. He agreed Joshua could have finished sooner, but he also gave Jake credit. Parker praised Jake's strategy, toughness, and willingness to stay competitive against a much bigger and more experienced opponent. In the end, the fight sparked debate from every angle. Some focused on what Joshua didn't do, others focused on what Jake managed to survive and accomplish. But most agreed on one thing: Jake Paul showed resilience, and Anthony Joshua did what he needed to do when it mattered most. Joseph Parker pointed out that this fight showed real growth from Jake Paul. He stayed calm under pressure and didn't panic, even when the moment got heavy. Parker made it clear that surviving multiple rounds against a former heavyweight champion is no small achievement. He also gave Jake credit for even accepting the fight in the first place, calling it a bold and fearless decision. Jake was knocked down several times, felt Joshua's power firsthand, and still kept going. For Parker, that alone was impressive. Bill Haney also shared his respect for both fighters. He praised Anthony Joshua for doing his job and highlighted Jake's heart and toughness, showing appreciation for the effort on both sides. Logan Paul reacted with pure emotion and pride. He reminded everyone that almost no one expected Jake to last 6 rounds with AJ. Some fans believe Jake won 3 rounds. Others even say 4. Either way, lasting that long shocked people. Logan pointed out that Jake rolled his ankle, broke his jaw, and still refused to stop fighting. To him, that showed real toughness. There was one round in particular that Jake won convincingly. By the second round, Joshua appeared less relaxed and more irritated. He charged forward with more urgency, clearly unhappy that Jake was moving backward and refusing to engage directly. Overall, the fight revealed something important. Jake Paul wasn't just surviving, he was thinking, planning, and adapting in real time. Against a far bigger and more experienced opponent, that mental approach played a huge role in how long and how well he competed. Daniel Cormier made it clear that the result of the fight was never really in doubt. Anthony Joshua was expected to win. The real question wasn't if Joshua would win, but how he would do it. For Cormier, that's where the interest was. Even in a fight with a clear favorite, there's still value in watching the timing, power, and strategy unfold. From a veteran's point of view, outcomes can feel obvious, but execution is always worth studying. Cormier also touched on something bigger. Too many in the boxing world. Joshua wasn't just fighting Jake Paul, he was representing boxing itself. There was a feeling that he had to get the job done. Losing to someone still widely seen as a YouTuber wasn't an option, even though Jake has long crossed that line. With elite coaches, top facilities, and million-dollar training camps, Jake isn't a hobbyist anymore. He's a real boxer, just not one at Joshua's level. Cormier admitted he once thought Jake's callouts were just a gimmick. After losses and comebacks, he assumed Jake would step away from real boxers, but that changed. Standing in the ring with Anthony Joshua, with no safety nets or special rules, earned respect. Jake didn't ask for protection, he showed up to fight, and that took courage. Early in the fight, Jake's game plan was obvious. He moved, stayed on the outside, and tried to frustrate Joshua. For the first few rounds, it worked. In fact, the opening round had almost no clean punches at all. Some commentators even suggested Jake won it by landing a single shot, which highlighted one of boxing's biggest issues: huge hype. Sometimes very little action. As the fight went on, fatigue started to show. Jake slowed down, and Joshua gradually closed the distance. Once AJ found his timing, the difference in size and power became clear. Anderson Silva offered a respectful take. He said stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua takes real bravery. Silva emphasized that Jake showed clear improvement and handled himself well despite the physical disadvantage. For him, boxing isn't only about winning, it's about growth, effort, and facing challenges head-on. Jake, in Silva's view, deserves respect for that. Boxing journalist Dan Raphael was more critical, describing Jake's approach as survival-focused rather than aggressive. He felt Jake was more concerned with lasting than truly fighting. Jake's coach, BJ Flores, gave the most balanced assessment. He explained that Jake looked sharp in training, moved well, and threw punches that could trouble even heavyweights. While the knockout loss was disappointing, Flores still saw progress. The fight showed both Jake's strengths and the areas he needs to improve. From a coach's perspective, it was a tough lesson but a valuable one. In the end, the fight wasn't just about the final result, it was about respect, reality, and growth. Joshua did what was expected. Jake Paul proved he's serious about boxing, willing to face danger, and still learning how far he can go. From the start, it was never shocking that Anthony Joshua eventually got the finish. People close to Jake's camp saw this coming. In training, Jake was moving well, cutting off the ring, and attacking sharply enough to trouble bigger fighters. But against someone like Joshua, timing doesn't come easy. The plan was never to dominate early. The goal was to survive the opening rounds, when AJ is at his most dangerous, and turn it into a real fight in the middle rounds. Joshua deserves credit. He stayed patient, kept the pressure on, and didn't panic. As the rounds passed, Jake began to slow down, which is expected when you're stepping up to fight a heavyweight of Joshua's size. Jumping from cruiserweight to face elite heavyweights is no small task, and it takes time to adjust. What stood out most was Jake's toughness. He went 6 rounds, something almost no one expected. He bit down, pushed through, and kept going even when things got difficult. Joshua's size made it hard for Jake to find a rhythm, but the fight itself was competitive in moments, and worth watching. In the end, Joshua did what he had to do, and he deserves the win. The quiet first 2 rounds actually worked in Jake's favor. Very few punches were thrown, which helped him settle in and frustrated Joshua. The strategy was clear: keep the big man turning, stay mobile, and avoid standing still. Trading punches with AJ is a losing game. The focus was on movement, forcing him to reset, and picking moments carefully. Once Joshua began landing clean shots, the fight shifted. After one heavy blow, Jake's movement changed, possibly due to an issue with his knee. From that point on, things became much tougher. In the 6th round, Joshua landed a strong jab to the body followed by a right hand, and that was enough to end it. Still, Jake walked away with valuable experience. Jake went to the canvas a few times, but that's part of fighting much bigger men. When heavyweights clinch, they use their strength to push smaller fighters down. It happens all the time. Against someone as strong as Joshua, there's not much you can do in those moments except wait for the referee and reset. Others took notice too. Deji commented on the physical toll. pointing out how hard the fight must have been on Jake's knees while still showing respect for his courage. Ma'am Taylor also praised Jake, saying he followed a smart game plan and stayed composed against a far bigger, more experienced opponent. The knockout was decisive, but the performance mattered. Jake survived, executed his strategy, and proved he's continuing to grow as a boxer against one of the best heavyweights in the world. That alone earned respect. Taylor's take blended honest analysis with respect for the challenge Jake Paul accepted. From the beginning, he made it clear that Jake deserved credit just for stepping into the ring. The result went the way most people expected, but what surprised everyone was how long it took. Jake didn't just survive by lucky, came in with a plan, and he stuck to it. That plan was simple: last as long as possible, and stay in the fight by any means necessary. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Joshua, on the other hand, seemed stiff early on, clearly hunting for the knockout instead of letting the fight flow. Jake used constant movement, which kept Joshua guessing but also drained his own energy. Whenever Jake got too close, he clinched, tied Joshua up, and sometimes went down without it being a clean knockdown or a clear slip. It looked awkward, but it served a purpose. Against a much bigger man, those moments helped Jake reset and stay alive. It may not have looked smooth, but it was smart survival boxing. In the end, the details of every round won't be what people remember. What will stick is the headline: Jake Paul was knocked out by Anthony Joshua, but not in the first or second round. It happened in round 6, and that matters. After seeing that performance, it's hard not to respect Jake more. Taking the fight alone earned respect, and lasting as long as he did only added to it. Whatever people think of him, stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua took real courage, and that's something everyone has to acknowledge.